Good afternoon. We're convening the Senate Committees on Transportation, Culture and the Arts, and Agriculture and the Environment on our joint 3 p.m. agenda here in State Capitol Conference Room 224. We have a few resos up this afternoon, beginning with SCR 106 and SR 88, urging the Department of Health, Department of Transportation, and Department of Land and Natural Resources to take action to reduce the carbon emissions arising from airplane transportation to and from the state. Testifying first, we have the Department of the Attorney General.
Afternoon, chairs, chair, vice chair, and members of the committee. I'm Lyle Leonard, Deputy Attorney General. The department has identified a preemption issue with the resolution based on federal law, and I'm available for questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. That's everyone who signed up to testify. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in this measure? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Aloha Committees, Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES in strong support. So sustainable fuel is an alternative fuel made from non-petroleum feedstocks that reduces emissions. It can be mixed at different levels with limits between 10% and 50%, depending on the feedstock and how the fuel is produced. And according to the International Civil Aviation Organization, over 360,000 commercial flights have used the sustainable fuel at 46 destinations concentrated in the United States and Europe. Worldwide, aviation accounts for 2% of all carbon dioxide emissions and 12% of all CO2 emissions from transportation. And the carbon offsetting and reduction scheme for the International Aviation caps net carbon dioxide aviation emissions at 2020 levels through 2035. So the aviation industry has set the goal to reach net zero carbon by 2050. And within the sustainable fuel challenge, it really can bring together multiple federal offices, and also it can create good focuses within the state level to focus on the sustainable fuel options.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on these resolutions? If not, are there any questions?
Yeah, I had a question for AG, if you don't mind. So, it's a reso, so how, and it's generally asked the departments to figure out how to reduce air emissions from aircraft. How does that, it's not asking anybody to break federal law, so. Are you saying there's no actions that we can take that will not, are you saying every action that we would take would break federal law? Because otherwise it's a reso and you just wouldn't do that.
So it'd be difficult to identify, I guess, these types of things that the state could address, given that the preemption itself is very broad.
Things like just not using as much fuel, encouraging conservation. That's an awfully broad statement for a reso. If you had a bill in front of you that was saying we need to do X, Y, and Z, then I can see it. But I don't know. That strikes me as not very sound legally.
Well, using less fuel, if it's anything relating to the design of the engine itself, that would likely be preempted. So
if we encouraged Hawaiian Airlines to buy more fuel-efficient aircraft, that would be.
Well, it depends on how you encourage. Certainly you can incentivize, but regulations prohibiting certain actions would not be.
But that's not what the reso says. It just says look for ways to reduce fuel consumption. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Further questions? If not, thanks. Let's move on to the next set of measures, SCR 140 and SR 121, requesting the Department of Transportation to convene a task force to research a green highway program. Testifying first is the Department of Land and Natural Resources. That's everyone who's signed up to testify. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure?
Aloha Committee, is Angela Melody Young testifying in strong support. So green highway serve as the purpose of enhancing sustainability, to reduce environmental impact, and to improve the quality of life along highways. Green highways improve water quality, reduce noise pollution, enhance biodiversity, environmental stewardship, climate resilience, and sustainable development. A green highway is a roadway constructed per a relatively new concept for roadway design that integrates transportation functionality and ecological sustainability. An environmental approach is used throughout the planning, design, and the construction. The result is a highway that will benefit transportation, the ecosystem, urban growth, public health, and surrounding communities. Initiating this green highway concept will provide sustainability, and it will provide for the improvement of the quality of life here in Hawaii.
Thank you. That's everyone. Is there anyone else in these measures? If not, are there any questions? If not, I'll turn it over to the esteemed chair of the Agriculture and Environment Committee.
Okay, SCR 138 and SR 119, requesting the Hawaii Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation Commission to develop vehicle miles traveled reduction strategies and make related recommendations. And first up is for the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee. Katia Balaciano here with OPSD. We are co-chairs of this commission and offer comments. We are very supportive of this effort to reduce vehicle miles and collaborating with other agencies. I think that we are just concerned that there are no additional funds associated with this. And so what we would end up doing is, pulling materials together from existing documents to come up with the materials that you're looking for. But otherwise, we're in support of this measure.
Okay, thank you. Next is Micah Munakata from Ulupono. In support, Leah Laramie from the Climate Commission. In support, Keith Neal, and also Jacqueline Ambrose in support. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Please.
Angela Melody Young testifying on behalf of Kapalama Neighborhood Security Watch. We are trained by the community policing team from the Honolulu Police Department in matters of safety. And so we will be testifying about this transportation priority. And so this is relating to the Hawaii Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation Commission. And so when we talk about mitigating climate change, it means reducing the flow of heat-trapping greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. And this involves cutting greenhouse gases from main sources such as power plants, factories, cars, and farms. Forests, oceans, and soil also observe and store into these gases and are an important part of the solution. So by reducing greenhouse gases with climate change mitigation, it is something that will really create a sustainable lifestyle in Hawaii. So the Hawaii Climate Change Mitigation Adaptation Commission consists of a multi-jurisdictional effort between 20 different departments, committees, and counties, and it's co-chaired by the DLNR and the Office of Planning. So the focus of the group is the climate mitigation as it relates to transportation, right? So how do we reduce the vehicle miles traveled with a strategy and to reduce the harmful effects that it causes by identifying state and county offices to collaborate and to coordinate with to work on these strategies and programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Members, any questions? Senator Decoy.
Climate change, please. How would you track the vehicle miles traveled in the state And how would you reduce vehicle miles traveled?
I could tell you how we would reduce vehicle miles traveled, and that is through more transit-oriented development. So here on Oahu, we've built rail. On the other islands, there are bus hubs and mobility hubs that not only help people use the buses, but, use bicycles, walk places, build a little denser mixed use so that people don't have to always get into their cars for every single trip that they have to make. So OPSD is very much pro-transit and finding ways to help people use transit or alternative ways to driving.
So I have like Hana is like really like isolated, they're limited.
Absolutely,
Of course, they got the farthest distance to travel to go to like doctors and stuff.
right.
How can you
Maybe
help
through
them?
buses.
Yeah, but even like in the buses,
Yeah, there are
just for
certainly.
them to get through the road in
Yeah,
Hana
there are
and then-
certainly places that are difficult to reach in the state. And we would never talk about eliminating all cars or eliminating all parking or eliminating, because there are
I like
just
to ride the bus.
lots of rural places, and we recognize that, cars are needed. But for areas that are already more dense in town, how to make sure that those folks have opportunities.
It's gonna cut that area,
Yeah, right.
emissions down.
Right, right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else? Yes. Sir?
Oh, no, I have no
Okay,
question.
you're good?
Oh, yeah, all good.
I'll turn it back over to you, Senator Lee.
Okay, thank you, everybody. We go into decision-making on our 3 p.m. agenda, beginning with SCR 106, SR 88, urging Department of Health, Department of Transportation, and Land and Natural Resources to take action to reduce carbon emissions arising from airplane transportation. Recommendation is to move this forward with amendments, adding statement directing the departments to take any action that is possible, just acknowledging, I think, some of the discussion in committee. And secondly, adding in a task force to look at SAF and other decarbonization measures for domestic and international travel that can be turned into actual recommendations for the departments, both departments, and back to the legislature for future consideration. So we have something tangible out of this. Any discussion? If not, acting vice chair.
Okay, Chair's recommendations to pass with amendments SCR 106 and SR 88. Chair Lee.
Aye.
Vice Chair Inouye is excused. I vote aye. Senator Kunuha.
Aye.
Senator Awa is excused. Mr. Chair, recommendations adopted.
Thank you.
Same recommendation for AEN. Any discussion? Chair votes aye. Senator Rhodes?
Chair's recommendation, SCR 106 and SR 88 is to pass with amendments. As Chair Gabbard votes yes, Vice Chair is excused. Senator Coit.
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Senator Wah is excused. Recommendations are adopted.
Thank you, members.
Thanks. Moving on to the next set of measures, SCR 140 and SR 121, requesting DOT to convene a task force to research a green highway program. I'd like to move this forward with amendments, making some clarifications. So we'll be convening a task force to develop green highway standards to address urban temperature, stormwater retention, and unsightly infrastructure that can impact tourism and mental health and everything else. Secondly, we'll make the chairs appointed by the President of the Senate, Speaker of the House, with members from DOT, DLNR, and others with subject matter expertise to be invited by the chairs. The task force should be examining best examples and best practices in places that are successfully implementing such things and develop recommendations, plus tech amendments. Any discussion? If not, acting vice chair.
Okay, Chair's recommendations to pass with amendments SCR 140 and SR 121 of the three members present on TSA. Any no votes or votes of reservation? TCA, I should say. If not, recommendations adopted.
Thank you.
Same recommendation for AEN. Any discussion? Chair votes aye. Senator Rhodes?
Chair's recommendation, SCR 140 and SR 121 is to pass with amendments. Chair Gabbard votes aye. Vice Chair is excused. Senator Coit.
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Senator Wah is excused as well. Recommendations adopted.
Thank you, members. And then the final measure on the 3 PM agenda, joint agenda, is SCR 138 and SR 119, requesting Hawaii Climate Change Commission to develop vehicle miles, travel reduction strategies, and make related recommendations. So the chair's recommendation will be to pass with an amendment from Ulupono, and in there, and what the amendment is to clarify item 1, where it states develop, quote, develop vehicle miles traveled strategies, unquote. And the amendment will be to add the word reduction so that it reads, quote, develop vehicle miles traveled reduction strategies, unquote. Okay, and any discussion? Chair votes aye. Senator Rhodes.
Chair's recommendation, SCR 138 and SR 119 is to pass with amendments. Chair Gabbard votes yes. Vice Chair is excused. Senator DeCoy.
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Senator Wah is excused. Recommendations adopted.
Thank you, members.
Thank you. TCA committee, same recommendation.
Okay, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, SCR 138 and SR 119 of the 3 members present. Any no votes or votes with reservations? Hearing none, recommendation is adopted, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. All right, good afternoon. We're convening the Committee on Transportation and Culture and the Arts on our 3:02 p.m. agenda here in State Capitol Conference Room 224. We have a number of resolutions. Up first is SCR 147 and SR 125, requesting the state to begin planning to collaborate with partners in Japan to appropriately recognize the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II, including the atomic bombings and lives lost in Japan and Hawaii throughout the war, and reaffirm a commitment to ensuring these tragedies are never repeated. Testifying first, we have testimony from the State Foundation on Culture and the Arts, Japanese Cultural Center of Hawaii. But no one signed up. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in these measures?
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES. So this resolution is to celebrate the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. And prior to the pandemic, Japanese travelers made up the largest number of overseas tourists in Hawaii. Based on data from the Hawaii Tourism Agency, Japanese tourists also spent the largest amount of money per visitor. And it will take a while for travel numbers to go back up to the pre-COVID-19 numbers. So it's good to encourage the Japan and Hawaii celebrations of harmony, and to also recognize that during World War II, Pearl Harbor was a time of destruction where Japan bombed Hawaii and then the United States bombed Japan. So now there is a peace memorial in Japan and also at the city, the Frank Fosse City Grounds. So it's really good to build the harmony and to create healthy relationships with other nations.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in these measures? If not, any questions? If not, all right, thank you. Let's move on to the next set of measures, SCR2 and SR2, endorsing the participation of Taiwan as an observer in the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, International Civil Aviation Organization, World Health Organization, and a number of other related frameworks. And then testifying first on SCR2 and SR2 is the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair Dennis Lane with DBED. DBED stands in support of this measure and stands against weakness.
Thank you. That's everyone who had signed up to testify in these measures. Is there anyone else wishing to testify this afternoon? If not, are there any questions? If not, all right, thank you. Let's move on to the next set of measures. SCR1 and SR1, recognizing the day of the second new moon after the winter solstice of every year as the Lunar New Year in the state of Hawaii. And testifying first We have no one signed up to testify in this. Is there anyone wishing to testify? Good afternoon again.
Committee. Angela Melody Young testifying on behalf of CARES. So Lunar New Year or Chinese New Year is a very celebrated holiday around the world, and reflecting on recent events, especially with this new year that was just celebrated in February, there should be more awareness about the Lunar New Year's. And celebrating with family, friends, feasting, fireworks, parties, and parades. So the Lunar New Year is celebrated when the community decorates with red paint on the doors of businesses and homes, and also with the color red is the color of joy and prosperity in the Chinese culture. And also, a few months ago, Grace and a restaurant owner from FET, so from the city, they did a
Summarize,
policy
please.
and culinary arts experience at the city council to teach about the Chinese culture. So it'd be good to get a resolution to raise awareness about the New Year's.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on these measures?
I'll testify.
Oh, please come forward. If you could identify yourself.
Huh?
If you could identify yourself.
Tyler, right. I testify, I second, that's a good idea.
Thanks very much. All right, up next, any questions? If not, let's move on to the next set of measures, SCR 148 and SR 126, urging the State Foundation on Culture and the Arts to convene a task force to develop art, branding, and narratives for an appropriate selection of Hawaii's unique communities, landmarks, parks, and other similar areas. And testifying first on SCR 148 is the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism, Creative Industries, Inc. Division, or is that? Oh, sorry.
Yes. I'll stand in support for DEFER.
Thank you. And we have testimony from the State Foundation on Culture and the Arts and University of Hawaii. That's all the testimony we have. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in these measures?
So, Aloha Committee, Angela Melody Young testifying, wishing to comment. So be it resolved in this resolution is that the task force is requested to examine best examples of branding and retail strategies at national parks and cities as may be appropriate to develop a plan. And so within the task force is going to be a few offices working together, including DBED, DLNR, University of Hawaii. And I think this is very good as an idea. And especially if there's going to be Hawaiian culture, that is then going to be a focus for art businesses and the community to develop economic development opportunities to brand Hawaiian art, right? And while raising awareness about the beaches and natural resources, it will really be a good collaborative effort to integrate the
You can
business,
summarize, please.
art, and natural resource sectors.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in this measure? Good afternoon.
So what's the question again? A question?
If you're, are you here to provide testimony on these resolutions
Yeah.
before us?
Oh. Okay.
Okay. Seeing no one else, are there any questions? If not, Thank you. Let's move on to the next set of measures, SCR 198 and SR 174, encouraging the Capital Modern Museum and State Foundation on Culture and the Arts to increase opportunities for artists, songwriters, and producers to showcase their talent on a public platform while fostering access to all forms of art. Testifying first on 198 is CARES. Good afternoon.
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES. In strong support. So, this is not a complete proposal without the new amendments, which is provided in the online testimony. So this was inspired by filmmakers, content creators, actors, indie producers, and artists in the arts and creative industries. It was inspired by a Ways and Means conversation. So in January of 2024, on the 3rd, there was a briefing from the DBET director. They talked about the film credit, and the chair of education brought up a concern about career pathways for development and training for students that want to get into creative media industries. So for those that are not familiar with the arts, when we talk about arts and what the arts and culture contributes to as a value in the state of Hawaii, we're talking about technical career skills and pathways of the art community. Artists' career pathways look like creating visual artists, painters, fashion designers, graphic designers, developers of brands, set designers, instrumentalists, sound engineers, CGI designers, piano players, photographers. Each of these careers contribute in a significant way to the state's overall economic development.
If you could summarize.
So creating the art infrastructure is creating the support for these artists, right? And so with the new proposal, if you can read it, please, it is for your consideration, and it really integrates the arts, prioritizes marginalized schools and students, and collaborates the University of Hawaii and other creative programs, and it also provides pathways for students for performance time, classes, and training.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, is there anyone else wishing to testify? Please come forward.
Okay. Hello, this is Will. I'm also a independent content creator, filmmaker here in Hawaii. And as a content creator, we tend to spend our own fundings on projects and to tell like a good story of someone else's perspective. And also, as a content creator, we don't get paid well. And also, yeah, we need more content creators for like business branding, freedom of speech, and social justice in general. But mainly, mainly to connect with people's other cultures and respect their opinions on things. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to testify?
I'd like to testify.
You can state your full name for the record.
Tyler Ray. So as an artist, just making music and stuff, it's good to have these programs and stuff because it gives kids stuff to do and keeps us out of trouble and like makes like school entertaining, and a lot of like kids wouldn't they would get in a lot of trouble if we didn't have these kinds of things, and kinds of gives them motivation for other things. And also artists are really poor most of the time, but then it doesn't have to be.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else wishing to testify in this measure?
Hello, my name is Chris Kaufman. I'm an independent filmmaker. I work in the film industry in Hawaii since 2017. Yeah, I guess we're speaking about like opportunities, right? I'm just trying to wrap my head around exactly what it is. But I would say like one thing I've noticed is on the mainland, there's a lot more programs in place that, could jumpstart filmmakers or content creators. And you got to kind of think about it this way is, like the internet's the big, like like that's how a lot of people experience Hawaii, and we sort of want to put a good show on for them. You know, get more tourists here, stuff like that. All right. I guess that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if there's nobody else on these sets of measures, are there any questions? Or any other filmmakers in the room that would like to come testify? Okay, if there's no further questions, let's move on to the last set of measures, or excuse me, the next set of measures on the agenda, SCR 149 and SR 127, urging the State Foundation on Culture and the Arts to convene a task force to research and develop a plan to implement chess as a competitive sport in the state. Testifying first on SCR 149 is the State Foundation, one individual. But no one else has signed up to testify. Is there anyone wishing to testify in this measure? Yeah. Please come forward.
Tyler Rabe. I don't think we should do it because I don't think chess is really a sport. It's more like a game, you know. There's not really any, like, I guess you move the pieces, but like that's, you don't even think of a sport, you think of like baseball, you know. It's more of a very competitive game for your brain, for really smart people, but I don't think it should be a sport.
Thanks very much. Come forward.
Aloha, Angela Melody Young testifying on behalf of CARES. So in strong support of the resolution, I think that chess should be a professional sport in the state of Hawaii. It's a game involving strategy, intellect, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills. It is recognized by the International Olympic Committee as a sport. And so I can confidently say that this will be a very fun, challenging thing for the kids. And then also, this is maybe something for consideration that the more appropriate department is the Department of Education to implement the chess program.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else wishing to testify in this measure? If not, are there any questions? If not, thank you. Let's move on to the last set of measures on the agenda today, SCR 146 and SR 124, urging the Hawaii Sister State Committee to recommend the initiation of a sister state relationship between Hawaii and the Spanish province of the Balearic Islands. And testifying first on 146 is Mr. Alto. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Chair. Aloha. Thank you very much for allowing me this opportunity to testify, Senators. The reason I've come to testify is because normally when you establish a sister-state relationship, there's some sort of cultural affinity. It's a host nation from which we've received an immigrant community, that sort of thing, some cultural or ethnic connection. That's obviously not the case here. What I would argue is there's a very hard-nosed sort of business case to be made about lessons that we can learn. The Balearics are the equivalent of Hawaii in the Mediterranean, except that they are dealing with problems a step or two ahead of us. And I thought I'd just pull out two headlines from this week's newspaper there. First one is, experts say it's impossible to build affordable housing in the Balearics, and they're looking for solutions. And the second one, I found this one, obviously that's an issue that we could sort of look at and see what things are working there, for example, putting pressure on the hotel community to see if they can contribute to affordable housing. The other headline I thought was fascinating is, last year, investors invested 752 million euros, that's over $800 million, on new hotels. Almost none of them were on the coastline. None of them were on the beach. They were in the city or in the interior. And they are, almost all of these investments are producing hotel rooms which charge between $1,000 and $2,000 a night. That's where we want to go. What are they doing that they could pull in $750 million in 1 year for their hotel sector? And that's why I think it would be a good idea to be talking to them.
Can I ask you to stop? Oh.
I finished.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you very much. That's everyone who had signed up to testify. Is there anyone else in the room wishing to testify in this measure?
Yes, DBED did sign up. Dennis Lane for DBED. DBED stands in its written chair committee members. Dennis Lane for DBED. DBED stands in its written testimony offering comments.
Thank you very much. Anyone else on this measure? All right, if not, any questions? If not, why don't we go straight into decision-making on these measures? I'll note we do have a 3:05 p.m. Deferred agenda to go into DM on as well, which we'll do right after this. So on our 3:02 p.m. agenda for transportation and culture and the arts, beginning with the one we're on now.
Okay. I can do the next one.
Beginning with SCR 147 and SR 125, which request the state to begin planning to collaborate with partners in Japan to appropriately recognize the end of World War II, among other things. We'd like to recommend moving this on as is. If there's no discussion, acting vice chair for the vote.
Okay, Chair's recommendation on SCR 147, SR 125 is to pass unamended. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair is excused. Senator Elefante.
Aye.
I vote aye. Senator Awa is excused. Chair recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Moving on to SCR 2 and SR 2, endorsing the participation of Taiwan as an observer in the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and other related bodies. Recommendation is to pass with tech amendments. If there's no discussion, Vice Chair.
Okay, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Out of the 3 members present, any voting with reservations, any no votes. Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. SCR 1 and SR 1, recognizing the second new moon after the winter solstice as the Lunar New Year in the state of Hawaii. Recommendation is to pass as is.
Chair's recommendation on SCR 1, SR 1 is to pass as unamended. Out of the 3 members present, any reservations, any no votes. Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Moving on to SCR 148 and SR 126, urging the State Foundation on Culture and the Arts to convene a task force to look at branding, narratives, and so forth for parks and landmarks. I'd like to move forward with amendments adopting the DBED recommendations to include a member that can focus on cultural narrative when appropriate. There's no discussion, Vice Chair.
SCR 148, SR 126, recommendation is to pass with amendments. 3 members present, any reservations, any no votes. Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Moving on to SCR 198, SR 174, encouraging the Capitol Modern Museum and State Foundation to increase opportunities for artists, songwriters, and producers to showcase talent on a public platform. Recommendation is to pass this forward with tech amendments and also amendments that would include modern arts and creative media, prioritize marginalized schools and students, collaborate with Honolulu Community College's Melee Program, the University of Hawaii West Oahu Creative Media Program, the Entrepreneurs Sandbox, and the Creative Labs Program, and finally create specific art educational pathways for students such as performances, classes, and training. There's no discussion, Vice Chair.
SCR 198, SR 174, recommendation is to pass with amendments. 3 members present, any reservations, any no votes. Recommendation adopted.
Thank you. Moving on to SCR 149 and SR 127, urging State Foundation of Culture and the Arts to convene a task force to research and develop a plan to implement chess as a competitive sport in the state. Recommend passing this with amendments. Based on some of the testimony, we'll urge the DOE to collaborate with Hawaii chess organizations to expand access to chess as a successful learning, development, and collaboration tool in public schools, and tech amendments. There's no discussion, Vice Chair.
SCR 149, SR 127, recommendation is to pass with amendments. 3 members present, any reservations, any no votes. Recommendation is adopted.
Finally, moving on to SCR 146 and SR 124, urging the Hawaii Sister State Committee to recommend initiation of a sister state relationship between Hawaii and the Spanish province of the Balearic Islands. The recommendation is to pass with amendments. First, urging Hawaii to consider the Balearic Islands for a sister state partnership focused on helping one another address the key issues common between us. And secondly, urge an exploratory outreach and meeting with appropriate leaders representing that province in due course. If there's no discussion, Vice Chair.
SCR 146, SR 124, recommendation is to pass with amendments. 3 members present, any reservations, any no votes? Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Takes us out of our 3:02 PM agenda. We have also deferred decision-making from last week on measures previously heard in this committee. Ready? Up first is SCR 139, SR 120, requesting a task force be convened to develop options to reduce cost and return increased value to residents from funds made available by the state for public mass transit. Recommendation is to pass as is. If there's no discussion, Vice Chair.
Okay, Chair's recommendations to pass unamended SCR 139 and SR 120. Chair Lee.
Aye.
Vice Chair Noy is excused. I vote aye. Senator Kanuha.
Aye.
Senator Awa is excused. Mr. Chair, recommendations are adopted.
Thank you. Moving on to SCR 85 and SR 71, urging the Department of Transportation to install speed bumps and speed limit signage on the portion of Kapolei Parkway between Kapolei High School and Kapolei Middle School. Recommendation to pass as is. There's no discussion. Vice Chair.
Chair's recommendations to pass unamended SCR 85 and SR 71 of the 3 members present on TCA. Any no votes? Any votes or reservations? Hearing none. Mr. Chair, your recommendations are adopted.
Thanks. Moving on to SCR 165 and SR 139, requesting DOT to conduct a study on the feasibility of bringing other airlines to the Molokai Airport. Recommendation is to pass as is. If there's no discussion, Vice Chair.
Okay, Chair's recommendation is to pass unamended SCR 165 and SR 139 of the 3 members present. Any no votes? Any votes or reservations? Hearing none, Mr. Chair, the recommendations are adopted.
Thank you. Moving on to SCR 63 and SR 51, requesting DOT to prioritize remediation of the flooding issues present on Route 11 around milepost 60 as a safety project. Recommendation to pass just with tech amendments. If there's no discussion, Vice Chair.
Okay, Chair's recommendations to pass with amendments SCR 63 and SR 51 of the 3 members present. Any no votes? Any votes or reservations? Hearing none, Mr. Chair, recommendations are adopted.
Thank you. Finally, moving on to SCR 99, requesting the United States Department of Transportation to conduct an investigation regarding the safety of the bridges along Hana Highway. Recommendation is to pass as is. There's no discussion, Vice Chair.
Okay, Chair's recommendations to pass unamended SCR 99 of the 3 members present. Any no votes? Any votes or reservations? Hearing none, Mr. Chair, recommendations adopted.
Thank you. So that takes us out of our 3:05 PM agenda. We have one next door. Okay, so we'll gavel out.